Welcome. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Now, with just days to go before the budget, economic indicators are beginning to look more and more stark. Latest data shows even air passenger growth is suffering in a country where it has been consistently on the upswing. So air passenger growth has now dropped to a 6-year low, growing at just about 3% in 2019 compared to an 18% growth last year. The IMF has revised its India growth forecast to below 5%. As we told you yesterday, it's a drop of 130 bips. It's also a worrying sign. Meanwhile, high-frequency indicators in a drop of registrations of vehicles reported by auto dealers, up to 15% really, continue to highlight the slowdown. As the economy is hurting, the question we need to ask is how widespread is the pain, and do we have a clear idea of where we stand in this cycle of slowdown? What does it mean even when a booming indicator like air passenger traffic takes a hit? To speak more on this, I am joined today by Ajay Awtaney, founder of Live from alounge.com, Puja Mehra, author and journalist, and national spokesperson of the BJP, Gopal Agarwal, who will be representing the government point of view. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us. Ajay, let me begin by getting your perspective on the numbers we've seen. Now, we know that the government has been pushing the concept of Udan, increasing regional connectivity. It's also been, even though the sector has been hurting, but in air passenger traffic has been on the upswing consistently for years. What do you see as the reason for the drop we've seen?
Well, Tamanna, thank you for having me over today. I think 2019 was a perfect storm really for the aviation industry. There were 3 things or 4 things that really went wrong. First was the drop dead. Basically, Jet Airways was no more, so that was taking away about 15 to 16% of the aviation capacity with it. And when the government saw that the airfares were rising, they basically started to reallocate the slots to other airlines, and they also facilitated that the aircraft that were on Jet Airways fleet were taken over by other airlines in a much easier manner. However, that was not it. It was also a bad year for SpiceJet because the 737 MAX was grounded. As a result, so SpiceJet saw constraint in capacity. Because of this reason, they managed to hire a lot of the ex-Jet Airways aircraft, but this is a different variant of the plane that they wanted. They wanted the more fuel-efficient aircraft, but they now had to dole out more cash for older aircraft. That was the second reason why the market did not grow as much. The third reason was Indigo's and Go Air were facing troubles with the A320neos, where there's an engine trouble. So towards the end of the year, the DGCA became more stern with everyone. So I think these are the 3 key reasons why capacity was not added a lot in the market. And thanks to all of this, basically, you did not see too much growth in the aviation industry. And
are the numbers also an indicator of the general economic slowdown that we're seeing? Are passengers choosing to fly less, at least where they can make that choice in an economy like this?
I think what's happening is over the last few quarters, airlines have been trying to move the battlefield from getting people discounted fares on 15, 20-day out fares to tickets which are last minute, as a result of which most people are not buying tickets earlier, and they come to buy tickets last minute. And then, if the tickets, let's say Bombay Delhi is 3,000-4,000, they buy. But on many a times at the last minute, they also choose to postpone that trip or not indulge in that journey altogether. So to an extent, you're right, that could also be an indicator of the slowdown.
Gopal Agarwal, let me come to you next and get a sense of how you look at it. I remember very clearly this government promising that Hawai chappal pehne wale bhi Hawai jahaz mein chalenge. Why have we come to this situation where you are now seeing passenger traffic plummeting to a 6-year low?
No, the aviation sector is finding certain other issues and problems with regard to certain financial structuring that they are having, and with the failure of jet and strong problems with the Air India. But if you look into other transportation sectors, the way roads are being built, the traffic on the roads, on the ports, etc., is increasing. Definitely, there are challenges with the economy with regard to logistics, etc., and the government is trying to declog the whole connectivities. Whether it is, we have over this last 5 years, there were only 35 airports. They were increased to 65, and now we have a target of building more than 100 airports. If you go into the northeast, every city, most of the important cities and state capitals are
you have really segued. I'm not denying that the government may be investing in infrastructure and ports and roads. That's not what I'm asking. I'm saying that when air traffic, passenger traffic plummets to this extent, it's a worrying indicator. It means that the choice to make trips is reducing in a sector which is booming. How do you look at this? And is all of this, are you taking cognizance of all of this when we look at the entire economic slowdown picture? Because at this stage, cherry picking data which sounds good is not the solution.
No, definitely. No, not at all. There are nobody, particularly our government, is not denying that there are certain challenges with regard to logistics and issues with regard to these two important airlines. Not one, Air India not performing very well, and then the Jet Airways failure. So that is because of certain legacy issues. Why Air India has failed? We all know the amount of debt component it has. So that is one issue, and there is another issue is about the season. If you see the data which is there in this report, it shows the amount of cancellation due to bad weather. So in the many parts of the North India, mostly Delhi, which accounts for large component on the air traffic, that has a big problem in this season. So that will pick up, but I'm telling you, these challenges have to be met, and ultimately government has to try to meet those challenges through other means of transport. Railways, we are seeing big infrastructure pushed by the government, investment. On the roads also we have seen better. So the connectivity has to be seen in all overall their issues, but airline industry has a typical problem at this time.
Well, everyone seems
because
to have a
of their
typical
financial structuring that they have done and over
your
leverage their balance.
All sectors seem to have a problem right now. The aviation sector, the auto sector, the real estate sector. There is suffering all around, Puja Mehra. My question today is, and we're speaking just a few days away from the budget, is are we finally at the point where there is cognizance of where we're standing, and how do you look at an indicator like as air traffic dropping to this extent?
Tamanna, air traffic is in fact, one of the components that goes into estimation of quarterly GDP growth estimates by the official statistics agency, that is the Central Statistics Office. And I remember for the last quarter when the GDP estimates had come out, even the GDP estimates when they gave the breakup, they had shown a significant drop in air traffic numbers. And mind you that the CSO does not take the raw data. They treat the data for seasonal factors and all, comparability issues. And therefore, whatever the problems specific to the aviation sector, the point is that the slowdown is feeding into the aviation sector's problems, and the aviation sector is in turn, showing up in the GDP growth slowdown that we are seeing. So there's no getting away from that. As far as the budget is concerned, which is under printing as we speak, I think that I do see, even in what Mr. Agarwal says, I do see now finally some amount of admission that yes, this is a problem phase. It's not like we are, that whole narrative of we are the fastest growing economy has now sort of taken a back seat, and there is some amount of cognizance of the fact that the economy is going through a troubled time and something needs to be done. There, what will be done, and if enough will be done. Again, one worries, going by, for instance, the statement we saw from Mr. Piyush Goyal a couple of days back on the whole Amazon issue. Even if he has a point there, he thinks on predatory pricing, the very attitude and the very choice of words, I thought, for a large investor, again shows a certain amount of arrogance and a certain amount of lack of sensitivity to the fact that we need every investment that we can get, and we don't need to say things in this manner. So I just hope that, again, in the budget, it's not all, hype about big numbers, like last time, 100 lakh crore of investment, when there's really no money to do that, not in the private sector, not with the banks, definitely not in government. And I mean, really, there are some concrete steps,
No,
and
you're
there is
right, Pooja. We've heard enough
transparency.
motherhood statements. We've heard enough motherhood statements. Gopal Agarwal wants to come in. Yes, Mr. Agarwal, just, on the point of lead indicators and different kinds of indicators, wherever you look, showing that we are seeing signs of trouble. At the same time, so much political capital being expended on, issues which, frankly, are less important than the state of the economy right now.
No, Tamanna, I don't think that is the way. You definitely, if there is a slowdown in the air traffic, nobody can deny. The figures are telling that there is a slowdown in air traffic. That denial will not help. Ultimately, if the economic activity has to be seen, it has to be seen across all the segments, and those, whether the government is trying to meet those challenges, that's very important. If you say there are, if we accept that there are challenges in the economy, definitely we know employment is a challenge. Certain sectors, real estate, etc., are challenges in the economy. Even export have certain resistance. So there are reasons for those sectors, and we if you look into only the real estate sector, the issues are that we are trying to resolve the problems, and that has to be resolved. The amount of black money which was circulating in the real estate, that was an issue, and the multiple leveraging, the way real estate developer companies were working with 2 or 3 times leveraging the same project of land, the same piece of land. They were putting
Mr. Agarwal, I'm glad you brought up the real estate sector. I'm glad you brought up the real estate sector.
So the issue is, no, Tamanna, give me 20 seconds more. I'll just tell you what I want to tell is that when you are trying to solve a problem which has a legacy connotation, you cannot call the solution who is going for a solution of a problem that problems are because of that solution. If you say we don't have to resolve the real estate problem,
instead of curing the problem, is killing
issue.
the patient. Mr. Agarwal, I want to understand your assessment of the economy, because you're talking about the real estate sector. The other day you had Rajiv Bajaj talking about how over-regulation is killing the auto sector. In real estate, you had demonetization, GST, RERA, all coming all together. Then you have an NBFC crisis to boot. You have a similar story across sectors.
Tamanna, in auto sector, Tamanna, on the auto sector, government announced in the budget that we will go for electric vehicle. But listening to the worries about the automobile sector, the government had relaxed those issues, and has put its energy on creating an infrastructure and investment in the electric vehicle segment.
Okay.
And now government has suggested that B4 emission norm vehicle should be sold at a discount. The industry is also working. Government is helping. Even BS6,
they have stopped making BS4. They've stopped making BS4 ahead of schedule, because car makers are not sure that even BS4 will sell. They have stopped making it ahead of schedule because they don't know even at discounted rates whether it will sell. So I just want to get Ajay in. Ajay, if you want to make a comment on the broader economic slowdown, and particularly what the aviation sector really needs right now in terms of government intervention. There are long-standing issues like, high taxes on ATF, etc., etc. But currently, when we've seen, one major player pack up in the last year, the other still struggling to build capacities and figuring out what's next. Demand slumping at a certain point, which is why you can't even increase prices now anyway, which are extremely low and competitive. What does the aviation sector now need from the government at this point?
Tamanna, I think the biggest ask from the government is the one that you named already. Airlines are not able to take input tax credit on fuel bills, which are 35 to 40% of their input costs. So I think inclusion of ATF into input cost credit and bringing ATF under the GST regime is one big ask. Second than that, I think we need to support more routes. You see, if you look at air traffic in India, everyone wants to fly the metro routes, and that's because these are the only routes that are able to absorb the capacity. So the Udan scheme has not been as much of a success as it is made out to be. A lot of times airlines take on bids, but they're not able to start these segments. So I think perhaps the government needs to take a relook at the Udan scheme and figure out if there is a better implementation that they can do about the Udan scheme, from the perspective of perhaps allowing just Udan-only airlines and stuff like that. Because so those are some of the things that the government can look into. I think, but the GST credit for petroleum products for airlines is one big ask, which has been a long-standing demand, and I think it will take away some pressure over the short to medium term for the airlines.
Pooja, interesting thing is, as we speak every day to experts from various sectors, a lot of the demands or expectations rise out of rationalization of GST, either rates, inclusions of items, exclusions of items, or simplification of the process, something which is effectively not in the purview of the central government. How can things be changed over there, or are we now in a situation where we have to hope the GST Council comes together?
Tamanna, I think in the GST Council, the center can try to create consensus. The way to do it is to go prepared to the GST Council meeting with well-crafted and well-drafted arguments backed by data and evidence, and try and tell states that we need to do this to bring the economy out of the slowdown. But having said that, for as long as this, for another 2 years, the constitutional guarantee of compensation for anything short, any state government GST revenues that fall short of 14% growth over the FY16 year growth, for as long as that guarantee exists, there is really no incentive for states to agree to anything that the center says, because they know that if they don't raise that revenue in GST taxes, the center will have to compensate them.
Interesting point that Pooja is making, that the government will have to pull its weight in the GST Council as well. A lot of solutions will lie there. Let's hope that we see something positive coming out of Budget 2020. And first, a recognition of where we stand as far as the economic slowdown is concerned. More transparency in data so that there is credible data that we can then work on. Let's hope we see all of those signs. We'll end debate number 1 here. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Up next is the big political debate. Gopal Agarwal will stay on with us, joined by Sanjay Jha of the Congress. Don't go away.